Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome into the Keep Boone Healthy Facebook channel. I am David Jackson, President and CEO of the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce. Great to have you with us once again. As we often do here in this space, we try to get great information from the folks in our community that are right in the middle of the COVID-19 response. And certainly Dr. Scott Elliott, Superintendent of Watauga County Schools, fits that bill. And he has been a regular on this channel. So Dr. Elliott, welcome back and congratulations for what has been a very well-received transition, getting kids back in the school buildings. I know that's been a big priority of you and your staff for several months, and it has all gone from at least one person's perspective. It looks like it's gone very smoothly.
Thank you, David. It's good to see you again. And it has been an exciting last few weeks with first our K-3 students coming back to school in the first week of October, and then our 4th through 12th grade students back in school on our 2x3 schedule. It's just been absolutely exciting to see students back in school again.
I know that you and your staff put a lot of effort into the operational plan of just how all that would work. Can you give us an update on how those operations have functioned, and are things moving along at the clip that you intended for them in terms of integrating students back into the schools?
Yes, I think all of the hard work and planning that occurred really all the way back to March, it was continuously improving and continuously evolving, but the team of teachers, our principals, custodians, child nutrition team, and bus drivers, the administrators in the school, and the support staff at our central office have just worked hard day in and day out, often 7 days a week, just continually working to improve all of the many different procedures that, as we've said here before, have almost had to be reinvented to adapt to the current situation. So where we are now is a lot like the full operation of schools, just with fewer students at one time. But our buses are running, our cafeteria is serving meals, and all of our different programs that you would normally see during the school year are up and running, but just of course with additional layers of some complexity because of COVID. For example, with our buses having reduced capacity with only one child per seat, and then having the cohorts Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, a lot of extra work had to be done in order to develop those bus routes in ways so that the buses weren't overcrowded. Our child nutrition team, now over 30,000 free meals that have been served this school year. So they're serving meals to children, breakfast and lunch inside the school free, but also doing curbside service for children in the community who aren't coming to school in person. Same is true with our exceptional children's services, providing services during the day, off-site, in all kinds of different ways. And it's been fantastic, I think. It's been really hard, and our teachers especially have worked really hard. Our parents, for the most part, have been very supportive and appreciative. And just as we've said for months now, people have been extremely flexible with each other. But so far, so good. All the plans have come together and folks are working hard.
I know that you're running a separate school system, and that is the Watauga Virtual Academy as well. And it feels that way because you've got, so many students at all grade levels participating in that. Again, from an operational standpoint, real quickly, has that been able to be implemented the way that you hoped it would back when this concept was first brought forward?
Yes, it has. The Watauga Virtual Academy, the option that we made available for any of our students and a few of our teachers who, for health or other reasons, could not return in person to school. We have about 800 students enrolled in that program in first semester. It too has gone very well, but it has probably been one of the most difficult things that we have had to create. So we have students in kindergarten through the 12th grade, from all across the county in all different numbers at different schools. We've tried very hard to keep our elementary students with groups of other students and teachers from their home school, their base schools, so that there was some familiarity. Even if they're not going to Bethel, they're with other Bethel students in the virtual academy with a Bethel teacher. Middle school, that just wasn't possible because of the numbers, the licensing requirements of our teachers and things like that. And so our middle school WVA teachers have just had incredible caseloads and numbers of students, and working really hard with families that they didn't initially know, but they're forming those relationships and working through those things. High school also a bit of a challenge because Very few of the many different courses and opportunities that are available to a high school student are actually available in a virtual format. But there again, the teachers over there and the administrators over there have worked really hard to try to make sure that students have graduation requirements and as many of the electives as possible. We do hope that that virtual academy is going to live on in the future, even after COVID, into next school year, as an option for families who need or want all remote instruction. But it has been a very good emergency sort of stopgap for us this year.
So with that said, what's next now that we're moving toward the end of the first semester? Certainly we've been watching the COVID numbers here in the community, and it seems like at least right now everything is going along about as well as it could in that regard. So how do you factor that data into the end of a semester and the start of a new semester to make up the operational plan for the beginning of 2021 for Watauga County Schools?
Yeah, so we're just continuing to plan for, what could be or what we know right now. So currently, the majority of our students are in school with us in person on our 2x3 model, 2 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday. That looks to continue for the foreseeable future. Right now, that is the only option for us for our middle and high school students, with the Plan B reduced capacity requirement from the state. We do have the option, when we feel that the time and the conditions are right, for our kindergarten through fifth grade students to return at full capacity. But what that means is minimal to no social distancing. It isn't possible to have all of our K-5 students in our school facilities and maintain that 6 feet of social distancing. In a minute, we can talk a little bit more about the challenge that poses for us when it comes to the safety measures that we have in place. But the big thing, David, that we're working on right now is what the Watauga Virtual Academy, the school that we were speaking of earlier, what that's going to look like for second semester. We know we had, as I mentioned earlier, about 800 students enrolled in that program for first semester, especially with all of the uncertainty. But we heard from a lot of parents that they hope that their students would be back in school in person with us for second semester. So now's the time. In fact, today I think we're recording this on Thursday. We will be sending out phone calls and emails and some social media messaging to our families, asking every family to fill out a survey for each one of their children to tell us their plans for the second semester. And those options are pretty straightforward. Either the family and the child are choosing the in-person instruction at our school facilities, whatever that might look like, with changing conditions, but their plan is to come in person, or their plan is to stay home all remote all the time. And sometimes we can complicate things with talking about virtual and remote and academies and all of that, but those are the basic options. So we hope that folks, and anticipate actually most folks will continue with the plan that they're on now. But I've had a lot of parents ask me, if we want to come out of the all remote virtual academy and come back to school in person, when can we do that? This is the opportunity to do that. So you can find those surveys on our website, wataugaschools.org. It'll be right there on the front of the website. You can also link to it in the email that I'll be sending out to all parents this afternoon. You'll also see it in our elementary school newsletters and on our school website. So just encourage every single parent to go on there and let us know their intentions for second semester. Beyond that, then we hope that we continue to see positive improvements in our local conditions. Things right now heading into the middle of November are about the best that we have seen in terms of local conditions for months and months. I can't say enough in my thanks to our parents and our students and our whole community for their hard work on that. And eventually we look forward to having all of our students back in school with us full time.
Well, and I think that gets into that kind of inevitability that as you bring more people back onto campus, you have the opportunity for more people to get exposed to the virus, and then trigger in the different procedures that you've got lined up for how that gets communicated, how those students are handled, from a public health standpoint, and then transitioned academically. How have you kind of moved the slide rule, so to speak, on that to make sure as you are bringing more people back that you still are able to enact some of those measures that, again, some of them are probably state mandated, but some of them came through good old fashioned hard work on the part of the school system to say, this is the way we want to make sure that we over communicate these particular elements of what we're dealing with.
Yep. So all good points. And I'm really pleased with the health and safety precautions that we have put into place. The social distancing, the markings in our schools to help students to, walk on alternating sides of the hallways. Wearing the masks, of course, has been one of the most important things. But those screening procedures and the questions that we ask every student and parents in the car ride or line, or when students get off the school bus, and the taking of the temperatures. And another thing that is unfortunate, but it's inevitable, and it certainly happens a lot, which is the isolation of students and even staff members. If they exhibit any of those signs or symptoms, if they don't pass the screening procedures, or very often, if they've been in close contact with someone outside of school who is known to be COVID positive. The state health guidelines dictate those procedures and how long students or staff members will be out of school. We're reporting all of our numbers weekly on Fridays on an infographic that the public can find on our website. And what we're seeing, as we have for all summer and through the fall, is that activities outside of school are causing positive cases and close contacts that then cause people to be in isolation and to miss school. So when a student or a staff member has been at school and later we find out that they are COVID positive, or that they were at school during that 48 hours before becoming symptomatic or testing positive, then we send out letters to the children who are in the classrooms with those children or staff members. If there are any close contacts, meaning people who really were within that 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, those parents will get personal phone calls to make them aware of that. But often what that means is that one single positive person might not spread the virus to others in school, but others around them in school might need to go into isolation in order to break that chain of possible transmission. So the upside of having our small cohorts of 2 by 3 in school is that we limit the number of children who might need to be in isolation for 2 weeks at a time. I'm talking to other superintendents and those around us, because many of them do have their K3 or K5 students back at full capacity. And what they're telling me is they're still not seeing any cases of transmission at school. On the other hand, when they do have isolations, it affects far more people. It's more likely that a whole grade level might have to go home, whereas for us, we might have a handful of students in a class who have to go home, if that makes any sense. So the more protective you are, the more people it possibly affects if you have more people come into school. But my hope is that as we have less and less transmission within the community, and as our students and families continue to take precautions outside of school with social distancing and mask wearing and all of the different events and activities outside of school, that it'll have less and less of an impact on what happens in school, and more students will be able to come to school at one time.
Two final questions for you. The first one centering around bringing back new things again. We're about to get into high school and middle school athletic season for the first time since all of this started. What can you tell us about the steps that have been taken to implement sports once again as an extracurricular activity at the school level?
Well, we know that any activities where we bring students and parents together increases risk. So we are, resuming our athletic seasons and activities with a great deal of caution and following guidelines that are put into place by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. And we have used those high school guidelines from the state with our middle school athletic programs today. Today, we begin our very first middle school volleyball matches all across the county, and it will just look different than it has in the past with those safety procedures in place. Rather than try matches with 3 schools that we might have had in the past, we will have double headers between just 2 schools in one place at a time. The number of spectators are limited to 25. So in volleyball, we're allowing each of our players to bring one parent to the matches. They'll be seated 6 feet apart. They'll be screened at the door. They'll be required to wear face masks, and we'll be doing extensive cleaning after those matches, like we're doing, during a regular school day. But I will say our athletic activities have been going on all summer long and have been really successful. As we have had sometimes when we've had to isolate pods of students, but again, all because of outside of school activities and no transmission of the virus between players on teams. So those procedures work, the precautions work. Right now it's volleyball and cross country. We'll be starting volleyball and cross country at the high school level here in the next few days and weeks. And then after that, we'll resume the other sports seasons, again, depending on how things go, really not just here in Watauga County, but across the state.
My last question involves somewhat of a joke here that I know that Watauga County Schools parents will understand. We're about to get into Wayne Eberly season here in the not too distant future. And I think there is some general just wonder about what snow days might look like in a setting with virtual school. Can you give us any kind of an idea operationally on how inclement weather that we haven't seen yet will factor into things like the Watauga Virtual Academy, the 2x3 schedule, and what parents can anticipate should we have any weather-related issues before this semester break?
That's a great question, David, and I'm getting it a lot. And we've gotten those weather apps back out on our phones and looking at the weather forecasts. And even with the severe storms and flooding that we had last week, we came close to needing to adjust our school calendar due to weather. Won't be long that I'll be out early in the morning in my truck communicating with Dr. Eberly, who's making those phone calls out to families. And I'm glad that with all of the tools that we have now for remote instruction and all the hard work that our students and teachers have done to learn to use those tools, that we may not have to make up as many snow days now because of our ability to do remote instruction. Just as a reminder, with our school calendar, the state calendar or the state legislature enacted some new provisions in our school calendar this year. One of those was to require 5 remote learning days during our school calendar year. This week, we used one of those days for Election Day. Our students did not attend school in person so that our schools could be used as polls, which, by the way, was very successful. And we've heard a lot of positive feedback from the public about using our schools in that way. So we have 4 additional days, at least, that we can use for inclement weather and remote learning. But let me give a couple of caveats, David. First of all, for all the reasons that many people have also said, remote learning is a limited tool. We know that we still have many families in our community with limited internet access, and many parents have shared with me all the many ways that remote instruction isn't a highly effective mode of learning for them. So we want to be careful to not completely rely too much on remote instruction to replace the 15 or 18 days a year that we miss for winter. Certainly, we think it's safe to say that maybe we'll no longer have to have Saturday schools. I think that's safe to say. David, you and I'm calling you right now about the survey. So.
I noticed that,
so,
you are multi-talented.
So folks, don't do like we're doing. Actually answer the call. Sorry. So we think that it probably Saturday schools are a thing of the past, that with no more Saturday schools than we ever have to have in the past, that remote learning days will, replace those. I hope now people can feel fairly confident in making their spring break plans, and that we'll be able to make up enough days with our remote learning to be able to have some stability in our calendar moving forward. Will remote learning replace all of our days? No, they won't. There will actually be whole days that are needed to be able to help our students to stay on track towards the end of the school year. But we certainly do plan to use our Chromebooks and our Canvas courses and all of the digital tools that we've had, so that we can at least make up or not have to make up quite a few days during the winter. I know that sounds very general because one of the things that I want to do is to see how effective remote learning is on snow days. And if there's high participation and high quality work that's going on, and we can say that's worth a day of school, then we'll feel confident in being able to use that as an option more going forward.
Well, certainly respect that element of it. You've got to try new things to see if new things work. I will suggest that no virtual snowball fights. That can't be good for the Chromebook. I just can't think that it would be.
I do have a group of friends in kindergarten at Green Valley School, and we do have a marshmallow snowball fight every winter. But other than that, That's where we draw the line.
There you go. And I think I saw Mr. Bettis jump in a leaf pile today. Was that right?
I was out at serving lunch in the cafeteria today, looked out the window. You never know what you're going to see. There's Mr. Bettis jumping into a leaf pile in order to get pre-K students to count backwards from 10. We just do whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Well, we appreciate you doing whatever it takes to keep people informed too. I think that is certainly something that our community can be grateful for, is the transparency that you have brought forward through the school system, and certainly other community partners fall into the same category, but it helps people to know information so they can make plans around it. And your willingness to share is always very appreciated. And we wish you nothing but the best with closing this semester out well, and hopefully not having to check the broadband lines while you check the roads at the same time.
That's right.
Hopefully we can keep that to a minimum here as we close out December. But thank you very much for your time.
Parents, fill out those surveys. If you have questions, call your principals. If ever you have any needs or questions about anything at all, pick up the phone, give me a call, send me an email, and we'll help everybody any way we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.